This is Gary Stearman with another Prophecy in the News update. It is Friday, and it happens to be the 28th of May as we speak. And I want you to know that Israel is on the move. And I want to talk about a couple of things that have happened since last Wednesday. Last Wednesday at 11 a.m. Israel time, hundreds of thousands of Israelis heard a warning siren. And they went to underground bunkers, safe rooms all across the country. The Army and rescue services practiced their response to a massive missile attack, marking the climax of an ambitious home front exercise. The Israelis are getting ready for war. Despite government assurances that told them that the drill was just routine, one of those once-a-year kinds of things, it, of course, was speculated that this was far, far more than routine. The leaders of Lebanon and Syria have accused Israel of warmongering. Can you believe that? Well, whether by accident or design, the 5-day exercise that concluded in that national alert fueled speculation over a renewed military clash between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah, that group on the northern border of Israel, Hezbollah, by the way, means party of God. They're very confident that God is on their side, and they have a rapidly improving arsenal, which, by the way, authorities are saying has reached a critical level. By that, they mean this. Hezbollah now has 40,000 missiles and rockets. 40,000 missiles and rockets, which can go as far south, they're saying now, as far south as Tel Aviv and other large Israeli population centers. Missiles in Tel Aviv, what can I say? That would be catastrophic. And the menacing backdrop to this whole thing is Iran, because Iran is the principal supporter of Hezbollah. And by the way, the country whose nuclear program is viewed as an existential threat by Israel. Hezbollah, by the way, here's something interesting about Hezbollah. They put 20,000 soldiers on alert near Israel. This from the World Tribune, filed out of Nicosia, Cyprus. The Iranian-sponsored Hezbollah has mobilized up to 20,000 soldiers and placed them on alert to confront Israel's military along the Lebanese border. 20,000 soldiers, 40,000 rockets. It's now confirmed that they have Scud missiles as well. Hezbollah, with an estimated, and by the way, the total ranges up to 60,000. I gave the number 40. Some sources give 60,000 missiles and rockets. Hezbollah has more rockets than most small countries. It has been recruited to double its force in Lebanon. Most of these Shiite troops trained in Iran and Syria are said to have been deployed in southern Lebanon and up in the Bekaa Valley. Here's something from Israel today. Hezbollah threatens to sink Israel-bound ships. Now, Hezbollah is feeling very confident because they now believe that they have what it would take to sink ships off the coast of Israel. And I'm quoting from Israel today: in a threat reminiscent of Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare during 2 world wars, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah this is last Tuesday, threatened to sink any ships entering Israeli waters in the event of another war with the Jewish state. Speaking to supporters, marking the perceived victory over Israel in 2000 when Israeli forces withdrew from their southern Lebanon security zone, Nasrallah said that if war broke out and Israel again imposed a naval blockade on Lebanon, Hezbollah missiles would target Israeli and non-Israeli ships in the area. Hezbollah feeling very, very confident. How do we attach this to Bible prophecy? Well, let me read from the prophet Zephaniah. And by the way, this is a day of the Lord prophecy. Zephaniah 1:14 says, "The great and day of the Lord is near, it hasteth greatly." This doesn't mean the day of the Lord has happened. It means these things are prophesied to happen when the day of the Lord is near. He calls the day of trumpet, an alarm against fenced cities, against the high towers. In other words, everybody's getting ready for war. And Israel is urged by Zephaniah to prepare. Zephaniah chapter 2 says, "Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired." You know, Zephaniah refers to Israel as a nation not desired. What an absolutely exact description of latter-day Israel. Nobody really desires Israel. Israel is considered to be the problem. And if we could just get rid of Israel, there would be peace in the Middle East. So Zephaniah says, "Gather yourselves together, O nation not desired, before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you." Now this is pre-tribulational, because Zephaniah is saying before that terrible day of the Lord. Verse 3, "Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger." And then he follows with the most amazing prophecy, and I've only got a couple of minutes, so I can't read the whole thing. Read the prophet Zephaniah if you want an interesting read. In Zephaniah 2:4, he says, "For Gaza shall be forsaken, Ashdod a desolation." That's a judgment to Israel's west. He also casts judgment to Israel's east. "I have heard the reproach of Moab, the revilings of the children of Ammon, whereby they have reproached my people and magnified myself against their border." Well, that would be the Judea-Samaria region, and Ammon would be current Ammon, Jordan. "And then to the south, ye Ethiopians also, you shall be slain by my sword." Well, that would be down in the area of the Horn of Africa, Sudan, where, by the way, Al-Qaeda is growing in strength, even as we speak. And finally, judgment to the north. "And he will stretch out his hand against the north, destroy Assyria, and make Nineveh a desolation." Now, the Assyrians and the Ninevites were destroyed generations ago. And yet this is a latter-day prophecy, which is referring to the descendants, I believe, of the Assyrians and the Ninevites. And he's talking about those lands to the north, which would, of course, be Syria, which would range up toward Iraq, Iran, and on up toward the Caucasus region, and even into Turkey. He says, "And he will stretch out his hands against the north." So Zephaniah talks about a judgment to the west, to the east, to the south, and to the north. And he does this in the context of the day of the Lord. Again, I want to repeat these words. "Before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you, seek ye the Lord." That's his word to Israel. Before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you, seek ye the Lord. I don't think those words only apply to Israel. I think those are good words for all of us today. As we see tensions growing in the Middle East, I think "seek ye the Lord" would be an invocation for each and every one of us. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for peace in the Middle East. Pray that our leaders will follow the Lord. Well, this is Gary Stearman with another Prophecy in the News update. We'll be back soon to fill you in on the events of the day.